The morning sun flooded through the glass walls. Clara Lane, CEO of Tech Vision Industries, strode through the hallway in her sharp suit. She wrinkled her nose at the smell of cleaning solution. A middle-aged man in a janitor's uniform was mopping the floor. He nodded respectfully. "Good morning, ma'am." Clara barely glanced at him, turning to her assistant. "We really need to hire cleaner people." Then, a child's laughter rang out from the room next door. "Thank you, Mr. Hale. I finally get fractions." Clara froze. The janitor smiled softly. "She's a fast learner." Silence. Jack Hale was 40 years old, but some days he felt twice that. He pushed his cleaning cart down the empty hallway of Tech Vision Industries, the wheels squeaking softly against the polished floor. His blue janitor's uniform was faded but clean. In his shirt pocket, he kept a broken pencil that he had sharpened down to a stub. He never threw it away. "You can fix anything if you care enough," he would tell his daughter Ella. Ella was 9 years old, with curious brown eyes and a smile that could light up the darkest room. After school, she would come to the office building and help her father clean. She would empty trash cans and organize supply closets, humming songs while she worked. "Daddy, why do we always sharpen old pencils instead of buying new ones?" she asked one afternoon. Jack smiled. "Because something doesn't lose its value just because it's been used, sweetheart. Sometimes the old things teach us the most." So, 5 years ago, Jack had been Professor Hale, teaching advanced mathematics at the university. He had a corner office with bookshelves full of textbooks and awards on the wall. Then his wife Sarah got sick. Cancer. The treatments were expensive. The hospital bills piled up. He took leave to care for her, missing classes and meetings. When Sarah passed away 2 years later, Jack found himself alone with Ella and drowning in debt. The university had replaced him. His research funding disappeared. No school would hire a professor with a 2-year gap in his resume. So he took the first job he could find: custodial services, minimum wage, night shifts, and weekend hours. But it kept the lights on and food on the table. Clara Lane lived in a different world. At 35, she was the youngest CEO in her industry. She had built Tech Vision from a startup in her garage to a company worth millions. Her calendar was filled with board meetings, investor calls, and conference appearances. Her husband had died in a car accident 3 years ago, leaving her alone with their daughter Lily, 10 years old, shy, struggling in school, especially in math. Clara hired the best tutors money could buy. Private lessons 3 times a week. None of it seemed to help. Lily would come home with tears in her eyes, saying the numbers didn't make sense. "I'm just not smart enough." "Mom," Lily whispered one night. Clara felt her heart break. She was a genius at business, but had no idea how to help her own daughter with fractions. The office building had a small tutoring room on the 3rd floor where employees could bring their children for after-school programs. Lily went there every day, sitting with expensive workbooks while her private tutor droned on about denominators. That's where the paths crossed. One Tuesday afternoon, Lily sat alone in the tutoring room, crying over her homework. Her tutor had canceled. Jack was cleaning the hallway outside when he heard the soft sobbing. He knocked gently on the door. "Are you okay, miss?" Lily looked up, wiping her eyes. "I can't do this. I'm too stupid." Jack glanced at the paper. Fractions. He remembered teaching this concept hundreds of times. "May I?" He gestured to the chair. Lily nodded. Jack picked up a pencil, his broken pencil, and he began to draw. "Imagine you have a pizza." For the next 2 weeks, Lily waited for Jack every afternoon. He would finish cleaning the hallway, then slip into the tutoring room for 20 minutes. He never sat down. He would stand by the whiteboard, explaining fractions using pizzas, chocolate bars, and slices of pie. "If you eat 3 out of 8 slices, how much pizza is left?" he would ask. Lily's face would light up. 5/8. Exactly. See? You're not stupid. You just needed someone to speak your language. Ella sometimes joined them, helping Lily with practice problems. The two girls became friends, giggling over math jokes and competing to solve equations faster. They would race to see who could simplify fractions first, their pencils scratching across paper while Jack smiled quietly in the background. Jack never told anyone he had been a professor. It didn't seem to matter. He was just happy to help a child understand something beautiful. Every evening, he would carefully erase the whiteboard, making sure no one would know he had been teaching. It felt safer that way, less complicated, but nothing stays secret forever. The tutoring room became Lily's favorite place. For the first time in months, she actually looked forward to doing math. She stopped crying over homework. She stopped saying she was stupid. Her private tutor noticed the change but had no idea why the difficult student had suddenly become engaged. Maybe she's finally maturing, the tutor told Clara during one session. Clara nodded, relieved but confused. She had no idea her daughter was getting help from the man she barely acknowledged in the hallways. On a Thursday afternoon, Clara left a board meeting early. She had a headache and wanted to check on Lily before heading home. She walked toward the tutoring room and heard voices inside. Lily's voice, laughing, and a man's voice. Deep, patient. Clara pushed open the door. Jack was standing at the whiteboard, marker in hand, explaining equivalent fractions. Ella sat next to Lily at the table, both girls working on problems. They were so focused they didn't notice Clara enter. And that's why 3/6 equals 1/2, Jack said, drawing circles on the board. Clara's voice cut through the room like a knife. What exactly is going on here? Everyone froze. Jack turned around, the marker still in his hand. Ma'am, I was just helping. Helping? Clara's eyes narrowed. She recognized him. The janitor. You're not paid to teach. You're paid to clean. Lily stood up quickly, her chair scraping against the floor. Mom, no! He's the only one who makes math make sense. Clara ignored her daughter, her voice rising. This is completely inappropriate. You're a custodian, not an educator. You have no business being alone in a room with children. Jack's face flushed. I understand. I'm sorry. I was just trying to help. By now, other employees had gathered in the hallway, drawn by Clara's raised voice. They peered through the doorway, whispering to each other. Is that the janitor? What's he doing in the tutoring room? Trying to act like he's smart or something. Someone should call security. Clara turned to her assistant who had appeared at her shoulder. Make sure this doesn't happen again. He is not to interact with my daughter or any employee's family members. Is that clear? Yes, ma'am, the assistant said. Jack gathered his cleaning supplies from the corner of the room. His hands were shaking slightly. Ella stood up, her eyes wide with confusion and hurt. Daddy? It's okay, sweetheart. Let's go. Lily was crying now, her face red. Mom, you don't understand. He's a good teacher, better than any of my tutors. That's enough. Lily, Clara said firmly, go get your things. We're leaving. As Jack walked past Clara toward the door, she caught a glimpse of something in his shirt pocket, that broken, worn-down pencil. For just a moment, something flickered in her chest. Doubt, guilt, but she pushed it away. I'm protecting my daughter, she told herself. Jack and Ella walked down the hallway in silence. The other employees stepped aside, some smirking, others looking uncomfortable. Security guard Tom gave Jack a sympathetic nod, but said nothing. When they reached the janitor's closet, Ella finally spoke. Daddy, did we do something wrong by helping? Jack knelt down to her level, taking her small hands in his. His eyes were sad but not angry. No, sweetie. We did something right, and sometimes right hurts first. But why was that lady so mean? Jack paused, choosing his words carefully. She wasn't being mean. She was being scared. When people are scared, they sometimes forget to see what's really in front of them. Will Lily be okay? I hope so. Jack stood up, pulling his daughter into a hug. But that's not our job anymore. That evening, Clara sat in her home office, trying to focus on quarterly reports. But she kept thinking about the scene in the tutoring room, the way Lily had defended the janitor, the look on that man's face. Shame? No. Something else. Dignity. She shook her head. She had done the right thing. He was overstepping boundaries. She was protecting her daughter from a stranger. But why did it feel so wrong? Downstairs, Lily refused to eat dinner. She sat at the table with her arms crossed, glaring at her math homework. I hate fractions, she whispered. And I hate that you made Mr. Hale go away. Clara felt the words like a slap. She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. 1 week passed. Jack avoided the third floor entirely. He cleaned the basement levels and the parking garage instead, coming to work an hour earlier so he wouldn't cross paths with anyone from the executive offices. Ella asked about Lily every day. Is she doing okay with her math, Daddy? Jack would force a smile. I'm sure she's doing just fine. Sweetheart. But he wondered. He hoped the foundation he had given Lily would be enough to carry her forward. Meanwhile, Lily's grades began to slip again. Without Jack's patient explanations, the numbers became confusing once more. Her expensive tutor used complicated terminology that made her head spin. She would sit in the tutoring room, staring at fractions, wishing Mr. Hale would walk through the door. I don't understand, she told her tutor, tears forming in her eyes. Just memorize the formula, the tutor said impatiently. Cross multiply and simplify. But Lily didn't want formulas. She wanted to understand why. She wanted someone to explain it with pizzas and chocolate bars. 2 weeks after the incident, Lily's school announced the National Mathematics Assessment. It was a standardized test given to all fifth graders across the country. The results would be published, and the top scores from each school would be recognized at a special ceremony. Clara encouraged Lily to do her best, but didn't expect much. Math had always been her daughter's weakest subject. On the morning of the test, Lily sat at her desk, pencil in hand, staring at the first question. It was about fractions, equivalent fractions. Her heart started racing. Then she remembered Mr. Hale standing at the whiteboard, his patient voice. Imagine you have a pizza. Lily closed her eyes and pictured it. 8 slices. She ate 3, 5/8 left. If she cut each slice in half, she would have 16 smaller slices. She ate 6 of those. 10/16 left. 5/8 equals 10/16. Her pencil started moving. For the next hour, Lily worked through problem after problem. Every time she got stuck, she heard Jack's voice in her head. You're not stupid. You just needed someone to speak your language. When the test ended, Lily felt something she had never felt before after a math test. Hope. 3 weeks later, the results came back. Clara was in the middle of a conference call when her phone buzzed. An email from Lily's school. She almost ignored it, but something made her click. Ms. Lane, we are thrilled to inform you that Lily scored in the 98th percentile on the National Mathematics Assessment. She achieved the highest score in our entire school. Congratulations. We would like to invite you and Lily to our excellence ceremony next Friday. Clara read the email 3 times. 98th percentile, highest score. It had to be a mistake. She immediately called the school. There's no mistake. Ms. Lane, the principal said, her voice warm with pride. Lily's score was exceptional. Her teacher said she's never seen such improvement in such a short time. Whatever you've been doing, keep doing it. Clara ended the call and sat in stunned silence. How? Lily had been struggling just a month ago. The expensive tutors hadn't helped. The private lessons hadn't worked. What changed? That evening, Clara took Lily out for ice cream to celebrate. They sat in a booth at the local parlor, and Clara finally asked the question that had been burning in her mind. Honey, how did you do so well on that test? Lily looked down at her sundae. swirling her spoon through the chocolate syrup. I just remembered what Mr. Hale taught me. Clara's chest tightened. The janitor? He's not just a janitor. Mom, Lily's voice was quiet but firm. He's the best teacher I ever had. He made math make sense. He didn't just give me formulas. He helped me understand. Clara felt her throat close up. She had been so certain she was protecting her daughter, so sure she was doing the right thing. Lily, I owe you an apology. You don't owe me one. Mom, Lily finally looked up, her eyes serious. You owe him one. That night, Clara couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the scene in the tutoring room, the way Jack had stood at the whiteboard with such ease. The marker in his hand, drawing circles and fractions like it was second nature. The patient tone in his voice. Who was he really? The next morning, Clara did something she had never done before. She went to Human Resources and asked for Jack Hale's employment file. Is there a problem, Ms. Lane? The HR director asked nervously. No, I just need to review his background. The director handed her a thin folder. Clara opened it and started reading. Name, Jack Hale, age 40, previous employment, professor of mathematics, Riverside University, education, master's degree in applied mathematics, University of California, years of teaching experience, 12. Clara's hands started shaking. She kept reading. Employment gap, 2 years. Reason, family medical leave. Wife deceased. Single father. The folder slipped from her fingers and papers scattered across the desk. Professor, master's degree, 12 years of teaching. She had called him just a janitor. She had humiliated him in front of her staff. She had banned him from helping her daughter. And he had never said a word. He had never defended himself. He had simply apologized and walked away. Clara felt sick. She grabbed her coat and ran out of her office, ignoring her assistant's confused calls. She took the stairs down to the basement level, her heels clicking frantically against the concrete. She had to find him. She had to make this right. She found Jack in the cleaning supply room, organizing bottles of floor cleaner on metal shelves. He looked up when she entered, surprise flickering across his face. Ms. Lane? Clara's voice came out broken. Why didn't you tell me who you were? Jack set down the bottle he was holding. He looked at her for a long moment, and then he smiled. Not angry, not bitter, just sad. You never asked. The words hung in the air between them. Clara's eyes filled with tears. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. About everything. My daughter got the highest math score in her entire school because of you. Because you saw her when I couldn't. Because you helped her when I pushed you away. Jack's expression softened. She's a bright girl. She just needed someone to believe in her. You gave her more than math lessons. Clara's voice shook. You gave her confidence. You gave her hope. And I treated you like you were invisible. I am invisible to most people, Jack said quietly. I've gotten used to it. You shouldn't have to. The next morning, Clara called an emergency all-staff meeting. Every employee in the building gathered in the main conference room, confused and curious. Rumors had already started spreading. Some thought there would be layoffs. Others whispered about a merger. Clara stood at the front of the room, her hands gripping the podium. Behind her, a presentation screen glowed with a single image. Jack Hale's professional headshot from his university days. Younger, smiling, wearing a professor's blazer. The room fell silent. How many of you know this man? Clara asked. A few hands raised hesitantly. Most people looked confused. His name is Jack Hale. For the past 2 years, he has cleaned our offices, emptied our trash, and mopped our floors. Most of us walk past him every day without a second glance. People shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Last month, I caught him teaching my daughter math in our tutoring room. I was angry. I humiliated him. I told him he was overstepping, that he was just a janitor and had no business teaching children. The room was so quiet you could hear people breathing. Clara's voice cracked slightly. I was wrong. Jack Hale is not just a janitor. He's a former professor of mathematics with a master's degree and 12 years of teaching experience. He left his career to care for his dying wife. When she passed, he took the only job he could find to support his daughter. Gas rippled through the crowd. Because of his patience and kindness, my daughter scored in the 98th percentile on her national mathematics assessment, the highest score in her entire school, all from a few weeks of learning from a man I refused to see. Clara looked directly at her employees. Several of them had been in the hallway that day, whispering and judging. They looked down now, ashamed. Today, I want to announce something. TechVision is launching a new education and enrichment program for all employees and their families. And I've asked Jack Hale to lead it. The doors at the back of the conference room opened. Jack walked in, wearing a simple button-down shirt and slacks. Ella held his hand, her face beaming with pride. For a moment, no one moved. Then someone started clapping. Tom, the security guard. Then another person, and another. Within seconds, the entire room erupted in applause. People stood up, their faces filled with respect and admiration. Some of the employees who had whispered cruel things that day stood with tears in their eyes, clapping harder than anyone. Clara stepped away from the podium and walked to Jack. She extended her hand. Will you forgive me? Jack looked at her hand, then at her face. He smiled and shook it firmly. Already done. The applause grew louder. Lily ran from the front row and threw her arms around Jack. Ella joined her, and the two girls hugged him tightly. He laughed, his eyes wet, looking around at the faces of people who had once ignored him. Clara's assistant approached Jack with a small box. Inside was a silver pen engraved with words, "For the teacher who taught us all humility." Jack picked it up, turning it over in his hands. His broken pencil had served him well, but maybe it was time for something new. Thank you, he said softly, all of you. And for the first time in years, Jack Hale felt seen. 3 months later, the education and enrichment program had 15 students. Children of employees came after school to learn not just math, but science, reading, and art. Jack hired 2 other teachers, former professionals who had fallen on hard times, giving them the same second chance he had received. The tutoring room had been expanded into a full learning center with whiteboards, computers, and shelves full of books. On the wall, someone had painted a quote, "A teacher is someone who sees you before you see yourself." One evening, after all the students had gone home, Clara found Jack in the empty classroom. He was erasing equations from the whiteboard, just like he used to do in secret. She knocked softly on the doorframe. "Do you have a minute?" Jack turned and smiled. "Always." Clara walked in and placed something on his desk, the broken pencil. She had found it in the lost and found after he had started his new position. "I think you forgot this," she said. Jack picked it up, running his thumb over the worn wood. "I wondered where this went. Why did you keep it? Even when you were working as a janitor, you could have used new pencils." Jack was quiet for a moment. "My wife gave this to me when I got my first teaching job. She said that a pencil that's been used, that's been sharpened down to almost nothing, has more value than a brand new one. Because it's been part of something, it's helped create something." Clara's eyes filled with tears. She was right. "I kept it to remember that my worth wasn't in my title or my paycheck. It was in what I chose to do with what I had." Clara sat down in one of the student chairs. "You taught me that lesson too. I spent my whole life judging people by their positions, their clothes, their job titles. I thought success meant corner offices and expensive cars. But you showed me that real success is measured by how you treat people when no one is watching." Jack sat down beside her. "You know what the best part of all this is?" "What?" "Lily and Ella. They're still best friends. They don't care that one of them is the CEO's daughter and the other is the teacher's daughter. They just see each other. No labels, No judgments. Clara smiled through her tears. Maybe they are the real teachers. Maybe they are. Through the window, they could see Lily and Ella in the courtyard below, doing homework together under a tree, laughing and helping each other solve problems. Jack stood up and went to the whiteboard one last time. He wrote in large letters, "Everyone has a story. Everyone has value. Everyone deserves to be seen." He turned to Clara. "That's the first lesson I'm teaching tomorrow." Clara nodded. "It's the first lesson we should all learn." And in that moment, standing in a room built on second chances and hard-earned wisdom, two people who had been strangers learned the most important lesson of all. That kindness costs nothing, but its value is immeasurable. Subscribe if you believe respect starts with seeing people for who they are.